I talk to my conservative friends, and they're like, I don't really get, like, why don't you just deal with like religious liberty issues and like small government and all of that? And I'm like, you actually don't get any of those things. Unless you get on board with this cause, right? Unless you can fight for a child's right to their mother and father, you're not going to get small government or low taxes. You're never going to be able to reduce the welfare state, right? Because when mom or dad is absent, the government has to take over. The government does not do it very well, and it costs a lot more money, and it's ineffective. You know why? Because the state cannot love a child. That's why. And then I talk to my liberal friends, and they're like, Katie, if you care about justice, why aren't you working on issues of like child trafficking and reducing homelessness and suicide and high incarceration rates and falling academic rates? And I said, would you do me a favor? Dig down and look at the populations who are most at risk of living in poverty or being incarcerated in their lifetime. Tell me what demographic is overrepresented there. It's fatherless kids, right? So when you are denied your right, when a child loses the ability to be known and loved and raised by both their mother and father, I'm not saying that it's an ironclad, trouble-free life, because it's not. But you stack the deck against kids when they are being raised outside of a loving relationship with both their mother and father. 90% of homeless and runaway youth are fatherless, and I work with some organizations that seek to intervene in children who have been trafficked. Most of those children are trafficked after running away or becoming homeless. 70 to 85% of prison inmates grew up without a father. I read an article that said prisons are pretty much holding tanks for fatherless boys. That's what prisons are. 63% of teenagers who commit suicide have absent fathers. Fatherless children are 4 times more likely to live in poverty. 71% of pregnant teenagers come from fatherless homes. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. You'll be hard-pressed to find a mass shooter who had a loving relationship with his father. There's really no social issue. You will not have any social justice in this country until you secure justice for the individual child. Many sociologists have posited that fatherlessness is the greatest crisis facing America today because it feeds every other crisis that we're facing today. In the 1960s, there was only 5% of kids who were born to unmarried mothers. Today, it's 41%. For Black youth, it's 71%. And those Black kids who do have a married mother and father, by the time they reach high school, only 17% of them will have only lived with their married mother and father. So we are starving children, or we are starving them for what they are made for. Like when I talk with youth, I say there's 3 staples of a child's social emotional diet: mom's love, dad's love, and stability. Right? It's good to have other things too, but if you're missing out on one of those 3 macronutrients, you're going to be malnourished socially. It's not to say that you're doomed. It is to say that there are very distinct challenges that you're going to have to overcome as a result.